I found out my own parents had held a family vote to steal my $95,000 house down payment while I was sitting 3 seats away from them at Sunday dinner. The worst part? They looked relieved when they thought they'd won. What they didn't know was that I had signed the closing papers 3 weeks earlier. I already owned the house. I just hadn't told anyone. Growing up, I was always the responsible child. My older brother, Jason, was the golden boy who could do no wrong. My younger sister, Emily, was the baby everyone protected. I was the one who worked 2 jobs through college, paid my own bills, and never asked for help. I told myself that was okay. Until I realized my family didn't just take me for granted. They saw me as their emergency fund. At 29, I'd finally saved $95,000 for a down payment. 5 years of overtime shifts, skipped vacations, secondhand furniture, and eating ramen while everyone else posted beach photos online. I never complained. I wanted one thing. A home. When I mentioned I was house hunting, my mom hugged me. "We're so proud of you," she said. Dad smiled. "You earned it." Jason slapped me on the shoulder. "Must be nice having all that money lying around." I laughed. I should have paid more attention to the look Emily gave me. Pity. A week later, my parents invited everyone over for dinner. Halfway through dessert, Mom cleared her throat. "We need to discuss something important." Jason leaned forward dramatically. "Actually, I wanted to talk to everyone." He squeezed his wife Melissa's hand. "As you know, Melissa and I are expecting another baby." Everyone applauded. Then Jason sighed. "We're struggling financially. The medical bills are piling up. We might lose our house." I blinked. Lose their house? Jason drove a luxury SUV and had just returned from a Disney vacation. Dad nodded solemnly. Family helps family. I knew immediately where this was going. Mom looked directly at me. "Honey, you've saved $95,000. "It's for my house," I said carefully. Jason scoffed. "You don't need all of it." I stared at him. "Excuse me? You could loan us the money." $95,000? "It's temporary." Melissa chimed in. "We'd pay you back." "When?" Jason crossed his arms. "Eventually." I laughed because I genuinely thought they were joking. Nobody else laughed. Dad folded his hands. "We've discussed it." My stomach dropped. "We?" Mom nodded. "As a family." Jason sat back confidently. "We took a vote." I actually thought I'd misheard. "You voted, on my savings account?" Emily wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom said, 4 votes to 1. "Who's the one?" "You." I looked around the table. Dad avoided eye contact. Jason looked smug. Melissa wore an expression of fake sympathy. Emily looked guilty. Mom reached for my hand. "We know you're upset, but this is what families do." I pulled my hand away. "No. Families don't vote to steal from each other." Jason rolled his eyes. "Steal? You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I snapped. "You want $95,000. Dad's voice hardened. "Watch your tone." I laughed bitterly. "You're lecturing me about tone after holding a family election for my bank account?" Mom started crying immediately. "I knew you'd react like this." Classic. She could manipulate any situation with tears. Jason shook his head. "This is why nobody comes to you for help." I stood up. "You didn't come asking for help. You came with a majority vote." Dad frowned. "Think carefully about what kind of daughter you want to be." That sentence haunted me during the drive home. Not because I felt guilty. Because I realized they had planned this. They expected me to surrender. The next morning, Mom called. "We've been thinking," she said. "We?" Your father and I almost laughed. If you refuse to help Jason, don't expect us to support you when you need us. I stared at my phone. When have I ever needed you financially? Silence. Then she hung up. The guilt campaign intensified. Emily texted me. Jason called me selfish. Melissa posted vague social media quotes about family betrayal. Dad sent one message. Disappointed in you. I cried that night. Not because I was considering giving them the money. Because I realized they didn't see me as their daughter anymore. I was an ATM refusing to dispense cash. 3 days later, Emily showed up at my apartment. I need to tell you something. She looked terrified. Jason hadn't just asked for help. He'd lied. He wasn't facing foreclosure. He had massive credit card debt from gambling. Melissa knew. Mom and Dad knew. They thought if I handed over the money, Jason could erase the debt before anyone found out. They didn't want you asking questions, Emily whispered. I sat there in stunned silence. They knew? Emily nodded. Mom had said I was stable enough to recover financially. As if 5 years of sacrifice could simply be repeated. Something inside me broke. Then Emily revealed one more thing. They're planning another intervention. I blinked. What? They think if enough relatives pressure you, you'll cave. I thanked her for telling me. Then I smiled for the first time all week. Because I had a secret of my own. 3 weeks earlier, I'd closed on my dream house. I hadn't announced it because I wanted to renovate before moving in. The $95,000? It was already gone. Legally transferred. The house belonged to me. When Mom invited everyone over again that Sunday, I accepted. The living room was packed. Aunts. Uncles. Cousins. Jason sat in the center like a victim awaiting justice. Dad cleared his throat. We're concerned about the selfish choices being made in this family. I almost admired the confidence. Mom dabbed her eyes. Jason needs support. Jason sighed dramatically. I never thought my own sister would abandon me. Then came the speeches. About sacrifice. About loyalty. About family obligations. Finally, Dad turned to me. Well? I stood up slowly. I have a question. Dad nodded. If you had $95,000 saved for something important, would you give it away because someone voted you should? Silence. Then Jason exploded. Stop making this about you. I looked directly at him. It is about me. Mom stood up. Sweetheart. No. My voice surprised even me. For years, I worked overtime while Jason spent recklessly. Nobody interrupted. You didn't ask me for help. You decided you were entitled to what I earned. Jason sneered. Fine. Keep your precious money. I smiled. I can't give you the down payment. His eyes narrowed. Why not? Because I already used it. The room went silent. Mom blinked. Used it? I pulled out my phone. I closed on a house 3 weeks ago. Jason's face went white. Dad stared at me. What house? I opened the photos. Renovated kitchen. Spacious backyard. Sunlit living room. It's mine. Mom actually stumbled backward. You bought a house without telling us? I looked at her. You held a vote to take my money without telling me. Jason shot to his feet. You did this on purpose. No, I replied calmly. I bought a house. Melissa started crying. Dad looked furious. You should have discussed this with us. I laughed. Why? So you could vote on the floor plan? Even my aunt snorted. Then Emily spoke up. Jason should tell everyone why he really needs money. Jason froze. Emily. No. She revealed everything. The gambling. The lies. The vacations funded by debt. The fact that Mom and Dad had known all along. The room erupted. My uncle shook his head in disgust. My grandmother looked horrified. You wanted her to lose her house opportunity because he couldn't control himself? Mom burst into tears. Dad tried defending Jason. But for the first time, nobody sided with them. Jason stormed toward the door. This family is unbelievable. I couldn't help it. I laughed. He stopped. You think this is funny? I met his glare. No. I think it's karma. He left. Melissa followed. Dad refused to look at me. Mom whispered, I was only trying to protect my son. I looked at her sadly. And who was protecting your daughter? She had no answer. Months later, I moved into my house. Emily helped me paint the walls. Grandma brought over plants. Several relatives apologized for believing Jason's version of events. Mom called occasionally. Dad never did. Jason blamed everyone except himself. Eventually, Melissa divorced him. He moved into a small apartment and finally started attending counseling. Sometimes people ask whether I regret exposing everything. The truth? I regret spending years believing love had to be earned through sacrifice. Family isn't ownership. Love isn't entitlement. Support isn't something demanded through guilt and manipulation. The day they voted to steal my down payment, they thought they were teaching me what family meant. Instead, they taught me something else. Boundaries. Self-respect. And the difference between being needed and being valued. Last month, I sat on my back porch drinking coffee while watching the sunrise over my yard. The house was quiet. Peaceful. Mine. Emily texted me a photo of Mom attempting to bake cookies. Grandma asked if she could bring over more plants. I smiled. Because despite everything, I hadn't lost my family. I'd simply learned which members deserved a key to my front door. And which ones never would.